Hi, thank you for joining us on this episode of Sports Bets for Free. My name is Scott Jenkins, your host, just a local sports bettor here in Phoenix, Arizona. And hopefully today with our picks and your picks, it's going to be another profitable day for you. Formula One Saudi Arabian Gran Prix is what we're going through today. So if you're into Formula One and you saw race one, you're like, well, what's different than last year? Well, to be really honest, Max Verstappen is just, instead of winning by 12 seconds, this year he won by 22 seconds. One thing that we did see in the last race in Bahrain was everybody finished. Nobody with DNF. Classified drivers, they call it in Formula One, all 20 cars classified. Even though Logan Sargent looked like he was going to, peel one off and maybe get it to where there was only one guy out, but 20 guys finished the race. Unfortunately, I think it was the top 10 were only ones on the lead lap. As Verstappen just absolutely dominated. Another thing that we saw, Sergio Perez having a fantastic weekend as well. Red Bull going 1-2. And Carlos Sainz, who is racing for a contract for next year as Lewis Hamilton is coming over from Mercedes to Ferrari for 2025. Sainz, I don't know if they told him to stay back or not, but he was definitely faster than Leclerc on race day. Even though Leclerc a little bit faster than him on qualifying, in the race. So Sainz looked really strong as well. Ferrari looked good. Little surprised at McLaren. I know this wasn't probably their favorite track of the season. Little surprised is McLaren finished 6th and 8th with Lando finished, I think, 6th, and then Oscar Piastri finished in 8th. They just didn't seem to have enough pace to kind of keep up. And the McLarens tend to, if you watch the broadcast at all, they tend to wear through the tires maybe a little bit faster than the other teams do. So a little bit harder in that retrospect. Red Bull did do something, though, that the rest of the teams didn't, and that was save 2 sets of soft tires for the race as they went soft, hard, soft on a two-stop race. So that was pretty interesting. In fact, they only had 1 set of hard tires, period, going into the race. Not only that, the medium tires were an absolute joke in Bahrain. But that was the year previous was the same thing. Soft tires, hard tires, 2-stop race. Most of the races this season are probably going to be 2-stop, if maybe not even a 3-stop. And they just burn through these tires so fast. And the difference in times between a new tire and even a tire with 10 laps on it is astronomical. And the racers want to go fast. I mean, who blame them? I want them to go fast as well. So now we move on. We go to the Saudi Arabian Gran Prix. So this last year, one of the races that Verstappen did not win was in Saudi Arabia. Sergio Perez, his teammate for Red Bull, winning that race last year. So this is the race, though. Verstappen did qualify 15th and still made it all the way back to 2nd. So the question is, if Verstappen has a better qualifying here, which we anticipate he'll qualify better than 15th this year, how does he not win this race and probably go away with it? The question is, he probably does qualify a lot better this year. The answer is he does qualify a lot better, and he does run home with another victory. I mean, the only way you're going to beat Verstappen, I think, is either mechanical failure or you push him off the track into the wall. Otherwise, you really don't have a shot. It's pretty interesting to hear the Formula One drivers basically talk about how far ahead Max is compared to everybody else in Red Bull in period, because they'll say, oh, we raced pretty good, but not enough to catch the Red Bull. The Red Bull's too fast or the Red Bull's too quick. It's when you go to most sports, nobody admits defeat before the race gets started. In Formula One, it seems predetermined that Red Bull's going to win the race unless something dramatic happens. So the question is, what are they going to do at free practice 1, 2, and 3? In qualifying, is their car set up maybe just for more for the race? Or is it set up for qualifying? Verstappen wins qualifying last week, and it was, not that close. I think 0.2. Wasn't like it was 100th of a second or something to that effect, the qualifying difference. But it's pretty impressive to see what they're doing. Now, we won't probably see any change from this. We're probably going to have this season and then one more season in 2025 where we see a lot of this. as there's no new regulations, car, stuff like that, till 2026 when Audi comes into the ballpark here. It's going to be, who's racing for second place, I think, for those. I mean, Red Bull was very dominant last year, no question about it. Won 22 out of 23 races. And what do? They add a little bit extra. They even pull out new stuff for the car, and they're even faster. So where the rest of the teams are still sitting around, I don't know if they're sitting around. They're working, but they're not working efficiently enough to make a difference. I mean, when you're winning a race by 22 seconds in Formula One, and there wasn't an accident, that's saying quite a bit. There was a couple of yellow flags, but there was no safety car. I don't even think there was a virtual safety car out there. So it was a dominant performance, and we kind of expect the same, to be really honest, this week in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia at this track. I mean, last year, to give you kind of example, like Verstappen won free practice 1, free practice 2, he won that one as well. And then free practice 3, he also won that. Sergio was second in the first and third practice. Qualifying, like we mentioned, Sergio did qualify first. He did only qualify by 0.2 against Charles Leclerc with Ferrari. But like I said, also Verstappen also qualified 15th in that one as well. So, I mean, fastest lap last year went to Verstappen on that one. So, I mean, I don't know how you get away from Verstappen winning. Now, there are lots of ways to bet the Formula One race. So, we are a betting show. We love Formula One, but there's lots of ways to bet this race, even though you might not want to bet the big lumber that it takes in order to make any money on Verstappen. So currently, just to give you an idea, and we're going off of DraftKings here, Verstappen's minus 450 to win the race. But I promise you this, if he qualifies first, it's going to be less. So if you want to bet Verstappen, so basically $45 to win $10 on that would be easy math for you there. That's probably a pretty solid bet right now. You're taking a little bit more risk because you don't know where he's going to qualify, but you're probably going to pay $70 to win $10 if he does qualify numero uno. Next on the page is going to be Sergio's plus 900 to win, minus 650 top 6. Charles Leclerc, whichever we want to call him today, is plus 1,200 to win, minus 550 for the top 6. Sainz, his Ferrari teammate, plus 1,800 to win. Also minus 550 for top 6. Lewis Hamilton plus 2,000 minus 450 for the top 6. Lando Norris plus 2,800 to win, minus 350 for top 6. George Russell plus 3,500 for a winner, minus 330 for top 6. And Oscar Piastri, who we followed along last week, we like again this week. I think McLaren's going to have a much better week. It would not surprise me if McLaren finishes 3-4 in this matchup here, or in this race. He's plus 5,000 to win, plus 135 for top 6. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll kind of round out the top 10 there. Alonso plus 8,000 to win, Stroll plus 20,000 to win. Aston Martin really doesn't probably have a chance to win, but top 6 for Fernando's definitely a possibility. I think they're the 5th slowest team out there. It's Red Bull, and Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren are fighting for 2, 3, 4. And then you've got Aston Martin at 5, and then everybody else. So the question is where do you find some value? Where do we make some money on some bets for this race? So one area you can find some value, and that's going to be free practice 1. If you want to bet Verstappen, now last week he did not win any of the practice sessions or have the best time in any of the practice sessions. But that could be different fuel loads, different run, things of that nature, or maybe they didn't finish up some things in testing that they really wanted to finish up, as Bahrain was the testing spot as well. But if you want to bet him for free practice 1, he is plus 110. Now, depending on how he does in FP1, you can come back to this and bet FP2 once it's available on that one. You can also bet, if you think Sergio is going to have a great FP1, you can just bet Red Bull to win FP1 at minus 110. So we've got some good value there. Now, the question is are they going to be actually trying to put in a hot lap and actually have the best time for this race? Or are they going to use it as a practice session? I would say they want to show off a little bit as well. I would not shock that Red Bull might be a little bit safer bet, as Sergio's done really well here as well. But Verstappen did win 2 free practice sessions last year, free practice 1 and free practice 3. So I expect them to actually do that. And you're going to be able to catch him at plus money on Verstappen for free practice 1 to have the best time. Now, if you'd rather just bet top 3 and be a little safer for FP1, you can take Verstappen at minus 275 if you'd rather do that. Or Sergio at plus 150 for the top 3 on that one. You can even do the winning margin for free practice. It probably between a tenth and 2.5 tenths at plus 175 is probably a pretty safe bet on that one there as well. But you can't, if you want to bet max and you don't want to lay the big lumber and you'd rather bet $10 to win $11, you can definitely do that by taking him in free practice 1 on that one. Also, qualifying right now, if you want to bet the qualifying ahead of time, this is the best time to do it, because if he lays down a fantastic time in FP1, you're not going to catch this number later. It's going to be much larger. So Verstappen at minus 110 to be the fastest qualifier. And then you got like Charles Leclerc at plus 225, Sergio at plus 650. That might not be a bad value. He did, like I said, he did win qualifying in this event last year, and he won it by 2 tenths. So getting plus 650 to kind of repeat that. Sainz, Hamilton, Norris, Russell, Piastri kind of round out the top 8. Piastri even plus 4,000 if you wanted to take a monster long shot here. Orlando Norris at plus 2,000 to be the fastest qualifier. I really think it's going to boil down to probably Ferrari or Red Bull for your qualifying. So if you wanted to take Verstappen, and let's say Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc, if Leclerc or Sainz hit on that scenario there, obviously you make a little bit of money, not if Max hits it. But if you're looking for multiple wagers in that one, but we do like Max FP1, and we do like Max for qualifying and obviously to win the race. We have people ask about fastest lap. That one can really vary quite a bit. It depends. If it's like a race like last week, where there's no safety cars, and track position's important, then the leader's probably going to have the fastest lap. Now, if there's safety cars or they come in late because they're 30 seconds behind or 30 seconds ahead of the next driver, and it's not going to cost them any standings points, then put on a new set of tires for a fastest lap is never a bad idea. Normally the teams, they'll save a set of softs, but nobody had that besides for Red Bull last week. So it can be a little bit dicier for that one there for fastest lap. So the other props we're kind of looking at here, double podium finish is something we'd be looking at. So 2 cars from the same team to finish in the top 3. We do like that one for Red Bull. It is minus 120 for that. One thing to keep in mind on that particular bet there, if you're going to look at double podium finish, you might also look for a podium when it does come out. If Sergio is minus 120 to make the podium or better, you can just bet Sergio if you want to. They're betting Max is going to be there regardless. So it's hard to bet a double podium with any other team, just due to the fact that Max, as you figure, 90% plus of the time is probably going to be on that podium, as he was in last year's race, coming from 15th, which was, if you remember last year's race, it was a dominant performance coming all the way back from 15th place on the starting grid. So there's a lot of options on this one. Fastest pit stop, if you want the fastest pit stop. Red Bull's obviously was very strong. McLaren, Ferrari. I would not bet Mercedes in this one. They have been slow on pit stops for multiple years in a row. But McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, probably your 3 best. Red Bull, the betting favorite at minus 105 in that one. And fastest lap, you can get it by team, and Red Bull's minus 200, so not a ton of value there. But, if they start separating themselves from the pack, and 4th place is 30 seconds ahead of the next 5th place, 4th place guy might pull in and try to burn a fastest lap to try to get that extra point. As it is, can come down to a point at the end of the year. It won't for Verstappen the way it looks, winning the world championship again, but it could be if you're trying to get second, third, fourth, somewhere in that range there. So we do have a couple of bets that we have already. We will add some more plays to this, so don't think that there's just these few bets here. Unfortunately, not everything's available until a little bit later. As before, we want to get out before the practice sessions and get as much value as we can. But the rest of the weekend, which is going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday races once again, we want to get this out. We want to get these ones early and kind of knock these home. So what we've got so far is we did take Verstappen to win free practice one at the plus 110, like I mentioned. Verstappen to win qualifying, because I don't know if it's going to get any better than minus 110 on that one. If he doesn't do well in the free practice sessions, we might be able to catch this one later, and we'll bet it twice on that one. We did take Verstappen to win the race. It's not going to get any better than minus 450 unless somehow he starts 15th again. Don't foresee that happening. So that minus 450 is probably going to be a value by the time we get to after qualifying. We did take McLaren, though, for a double top 6 finish. So Piastri and Norris have to finish inside the top 6. That was plus 250 on DraftKings. Found quite a bit of value there. I expect McLaren to have a really good week this week. They didn't last season, but that was before the upgrades. But this track kind of suits what their car does. Piastri we took last week to make the top 6. We're going to take him again. It's only plus 135 this week, though. Just keep that in mind. Not as much juice as last week, but a much better track for McLaren. Over 17 and a half classified drivers. That means 18 drivers plus need to finish the race. That was plus 150 on DraftKings for that one. Red Bull double podium finish. We already took that one at minus 120. Like I said, we'll look for Sergio again. If he has a good practice in qualifying, we'll look to take him for a podium finish by himself as well. And then Sergio, top 3 at FP1. That was plus 150 at DraftKings on that one. So Sergio does well at this track. The question is going to be, there's not really too much of a question. The Red Bulls are the fastest cars. The only question when it comes to practice sessions for Red Bull is, are we actually going to are we testing something out? Are we going to put a hot lap in? Or are we more worried about race pace? Which one's it going to be? So the free practices, obviously not as much a guarantee as the race. That's why the odd difference. But, we should see, I think Sergio and Max have some pretty good practice sessions as well. So make sure you do check back to the Google Sheets. We will have a link at the end of the show in the comments section. I'll read docs.google.spreadsheet, bunch of other stuff behind it. It is a link right into all of our bets, what juice we got those at, how many units, and what book we placed them at. So far, we've been everything at DraftKings this week, because that seemed to have some of the better value there. But we will shop around as we get around through the race. Now, unfortunately, we can't have a show in 3-hour blocks in between races and in between practice sessions. So make sure you do check back to the Google Sheets. This will be our one show for the Saudi Arabian Gran Prix, but we will update the betting sheet as we go along. So if you want to follow along there or get some ideas for some other bets that are going to happen throughout the weekend, please feel free to do so. So just to kind of go through the bets we currently have: Verstappen to win free practice 1, Verstappen to win qualifying and to win the race, McLaren double top 6 finish, Piastri top 6, 18 plus classified drivers, a Red Bull double podium finish, and Sergio Perez top 3 at FP1 as well. Like I said, there's quite a few different bets that are available now. There will be even more without. There's also like winner without if you want to take out the top 5 teams, if you want to pick that. If you want to bet top 2 to finish in that, for the race itself, Sergio's plus 150 for that currently. Podium finish, Sergio's minus 150. So that double podium finish, there is a little bit of value there at minus 120 for them both to finish. I mean, if Max can go from 15th to 2nd, he wins the last race by 22 seconds. The only thing that doesn't allow him in is a mechanical failure or a wreck. And we expect, Max has been very careful not to wreck the vehicle here the last couple seasons. Has had such a dominant car. If he gets into a corner, especially, the first turn on lap 1, he either pulls away, he pulls ahead by then, or he sets back. He's not willing to risk that car to gain a little bit of advantage there when he knows he can pass that car shortly after. So the odds of him having a wreck have been severely decreased, unlike 2021 when him and Lewis seemed to be fighting over every inch because your car had to be in front because if you didn't have clean air, you were toast. So a little bit different racing scenario here the last couple seasons with that, and Max has just absolutely dominated, folks. Now, he didn't win every race last year. Obviously, Sergio won this race in Saudi Arabia last year. And I don't know if Red Bull's ever going to win Singapore. That'll be the one race where we can get quite a bit of value to bet against Max if you're wanting to bet against him. But money's more important than race team, so to speak. We're more interested in making money than we are this. And we'd like to see a good race. Are we going to see one? More than likely not. I mean, not between first and the rest of the field, but it should be maybe some exciting stuff between, maybe second, third, and on down. So to make like I said, make sure you do check back on those Google Sheets, get all of our updated bets, and match them up with your bets and give you that ton of confidence you need heading to the betting app or betting window. And as always, if you could subscribe and get notifications to the YouTube channel, so when we drop a new episodes of bets, you get those first, whether it be football when it's going on, baseball, which we have futures out already, but we'll have a futures show, plus baseball's about to ramp up, basketball, which we've been in the midst of for months, Formula One, golf, all that kind of good stuff. Make sure you subscribe, get those notifications, so that way you know when to check back and look at those bets. Match them up with your bets, and like I said, give you that ton of confidence you need heading to the betting app or betting window so you can make some money. Do appreciate everybody's support as always, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.